Welcome to this week's Art Wisdom podcast with Chris and Kat. And this week we have Amy Murphy with us. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Amy runs a custom picture framing business in Ballarat in Victoria in Australia. So love to hear how you get started, Amy, and how you became a framing business.
So I'm an artist and my business partner is a woodworker. So we combined superpowers basically and took over an established picture framers, which we have taken under our wing and created as our own. We've grown the business, we've added art supplies, and we've taken it to new heights, and we're loving it.
That is so exciting. So I would love to ask you more about, because we can split this up into talking about each different bit of the business, but I would love to ask more about obviously the framing stuff and what are the most common questions you get when someone walks through the door and maybe they've never framed anything before? Where do they usually start?
So a lot of people don't understand the mat board sort of thing around a picture. So mat board is the cardboard surround around the picture that goes in between the picture and the frame, that you can have in all different colors and widths, and you can stack them, and it can really set your picture apart from your stock standard Kmart frame.
And what is the purpose of that mat for instance?
That keeps the artwork away from the glass. So a glass should never sit against your artwork. So you should either have a spacer, which is a little plastic rim that goes around the glass that will keep the glass off your artwork, or the mat board, which will keep the glass away from your artwork. So inside, it will sweat over time.
Right.
Or
especially humid climates, right? Even worse in places.
Yeah. And off gassing as well from the printing and the backing boards and things like that. And it will actually it will adhere to the glass over time. So you really need something in between there to space between your artwork and the glass.
Wow. You know what? That's such a good point. I've got one of my favorite photos of me and my late dog, Dave. When he was a little puppy, I had a photo of me and him, and I had it in a cheap Kmart frame, and it's fully fused to the glass.
Yeah.
And there's no getting off, and I'm not got another copy of it. So
no, if you take it off, it will actually peel the print off. So it's very important to have a spacer.
Wow, because even with those little cheap frames, they do have like a paper thing, but that's no good then, is it? Because it's not that distance.
Oh, I see.
The paper backing is
they
just
sometimes do a mat board. Yeah.
Look, anything is better than nothing. So it is very thin, those ones that come in the store-bought frames, but it's definitely better than nothing.
Yeah, true. And I suppose framing's better than just leaving out in the elements.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Look, I know this is random, but when I was really young, someone did a presentation and it was like for first aid, and they said protect the bodies from the elephants, which I thought was they meant elements, obviously, but now I can't not say elephants.
Yes, we do like to protect people's artwork from elephants.
Yeah. Have you got any glass strong enough for that? That would be pretty
well,
good.
Actually, since you mentioned glass, that's actually very important as well.
Right.
So just standard glass, obviously everyone knows standard glass. It has a tint to it and it's very reflective. So when you're framing, if you have a really important piece of artwork, you can go up grades in glass. So you've got conservation grade glass, which is super clear. It won't muddy up your artwork at all. And it has a 99% UV filter in it. So if you've got it, sorry?
I was just going, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so if you've got your artwork in a lot of light, not just sunlight, even overhead lights, it can fade your artwork over time, and the paper can start to break down as well. So this glass will actually protect very important artwork as well.
From the elephants.
From the elephants, yes.
Yeah.
And then the next step up from that, you've got what we call art glass, and that's also super clear. It has a 70% UV protection, which you think, why is it a step up if it's only 70% and the other one's 99? Art glass is non-reflective. It is amazing. You can take a photo. It's crazy. So if you've got your picture hanging in a highly lit area, you won't get glare.
Dude, I need some of those for my glasses. So
yes.
you can't see them.
yeah.
You can get them, Cass. I think you can.
I do. Just contact lenses, I suppose.
Yeah,
but that's
so
fascinating as well. Because
this glass is an absolute pleasure to take pictures of as well, because there's no reflections.
Yeah, because anyone that's ever tried to take photos of their artwork in frames, it's funny because actually I do a lot of glow in the dark work, and a lot of people go, oh, it doesn't glow anymore. And I'm like, wow, funny. You put it behind a 99% UV resistant thing.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
absolutely. You're not going to get the UV through it to charge that glow in the dark.
Dude, they were like trying to charge it with this big Canon, and they were like barely glowing. I was like, pretty good glass you've got, but not good glow.
So upsides and downsides.
Are these pretty standard things that people will do, or are these like the exceptions? Are they like quite expensive to do these things, or is that the norm?
Look, yeah, it is more expensive, obviously, to have the better grades of glass. But we actually find that once most people see the options that they've got, they will go for the art glass, or at least the conservation glass. So the conservation glass price point sits in between the art glass and the standard glass.
Right.
So you can get that clarity and you can get the UV protection, but it's not as expensive as the art glass.
Yeah. And I tell you what, it makes artwork look so much better.
Oh, it does.
There is a reason why you don't just see bits of paper. Well, I suppose there are very rare exceptions, but like when you go into a gallery, the one thing you can almost guarantee is that everything is always really nicely framed.
Oh, absolutely.
And like one of the things I'm looking at with my own art business is like how to create a much better customer experience. Like I want people to have those pieces of artwork and just feel like bowled over by them. And actually the presentation in a frame makes such a massive difference that I've now increased my prices and included the frame, because I think sometimes it's a bit hard for people to organize that themselves, if you know what I mean. So this way they can get the frame that they want, but the experience and the way that it looks on a wall is like way better.
Oh yeah, yeah. And something we love to do is reframes. And I wish we remembered to take before photos more often. But taking a before and after photo of a reframed picture.
I never thought about that.
Oh, it's
frame
so
renos.
Good. Yeah. And our customers are so thrilled when they see a really dated frame on an artwork, and we freshen it up and give it a new lease on life, and they're just blown away. It really does the frame can make or break an image.
Yeah.
Wow.
That goes into trends, I suppose, doesn't it? Because if you've got an old painting or an old framing, as soon as you change that, and so what are the trends that you're finding at the moment?
So raw woods are very popular at the moment.
Sorry, what's that?
Just raw wood.
Raw wood.
So oaks or
I feel like that's quite timeless in a way.
Yeah. Varnished is also very popular. So that same wood with a clear varnish on it. We tend to match those. So when a customer comes in, we say, you're matching it with anything in your house. And a lot of houses these days have your wooden floors.
Right.
And a lot of people want to match their frames with their wooden floors. And we've got a range of woods to match, light to dark.
Right.
So, yeah, you know what? That's actually super helpful if someone takes a photograph of the room that they're framing and the location, so you can just see where it goes. Because I think also, you do have to frame for where you are. Like you wouldn't have I mean, I suppose you could if you were making it like a statement piece, but you like having, let's say, an ultra modern home with like a big Gaudi frame might actually work, I suppose, but it might look a bit out of place in the same way that you have like an ultra modern hat, like the other opposite way around.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I said before, but you know what I mean? Like that might feel out of place. And I think also like I saw an old frame, I think it's one that you redid, and like it was like a weird mat board that was like, I don't know, it discolored and it
The
looked
pink one?
awful. Oh no, it was a
Yeah.
wheels house. And it was like the weird green baby puke green. I don't know what color it would say. It was
Yeah, there's been some interesting tastes over the time that we see come through the door, but we're always happy to freshen it up. And
so is this trends with woods and stuff like that? Is this trends with shapes as well?
There's the plain profiles are the most popular. So just flat face.
Yeah.
There are still people that do want a nice mold. We actually love.
When you say
creative.
mold, do you mean like the fancy?
Yeah. So the mold is the shape of the frame.
Right.
So when we get a length of framing to do, we call it a length of molding. So it's actually shaped at the manufacturers to have all the different sort of shapes and profiles that they have on it. So yeah, plain is currently in, but we do still get people that come in wanting fancy gold ornate frames for older style pictures and things, which is really fun to do. But at the end of the day, we're matching, we want the customer to go home happy. It's going on their wall. We're matching their tastes, their house. So if you've got a picture of a space that you want your picture to go in, absolutely take a picture of your room and take it into your framer and say, this is where it's going, because that's really helpful for us to see the other colors in the room, the light that's in the room. And
like for artists that are using this, if you were doing a commission for someone, get the person that's got the commission or whatever to take a photograph of the wall so that you can put a frame on it that matches, or you can work with your clients to pick out something that works. That makes a big difference. Even, I suppose, I don't know if you do this, but like even having like a digital representation where you put it on the wall and then put the frame in Photoshop, you know what I mean? So
there are programs that do that, but we don't have that currently. That's sort of a lot of extra time on top of what we do. But part of the process of our quote and consultation is helping our customers to visualize what that picture will look like. And it can be quite fun, and we get a lot of outcomes that the customers are surprised with. They come in and say, I'm not really sure what I want. We kind of want these colors. This is what my house is like. And this is where the artistic vision comes in. And it's really fun to pull something out, especially if it's on the first go. And you kind of whip it out and you go, how about this? And they go, oh my God, that's amazing. That looks brilliant.
Yes, that's great.
You look very clever.
Yeah,
I love how
fun.
enthusiastic you are about it, and I think that if anyone's using a printer is not as enthusiastic about as you, it's probably time to change, isn't it? Because it must be lovely to go into a printer's and then go, I've actually got help here. I'm not sort of like, well, what do you want? And they're just leaving it all to me. So
yeah, we absolutely love what we do, and it's really nice, especially when people come in with very special things from departed loved ones or things like that, and we frame it and we bring it out and there's tears. It's going into it, we didn't expect that we would make that much of an impact on people, but that's really, really special. And we love seeing that.
Like it elevates anything you frame out, it elevates always.
It does. Yeah. And we're getting a lot of custom jobs now too, with my business partner's woodworking skills. He can actually fashion frames that aren't off the shelf moldings. So he will actually head down to Bunnings, get all the wood and actually custom make
Wow.
a full frame, and he does wood turning as well. So we've done circular frames as well, turned a lot of
Oh.
circular frames.
You know what? I've got a
So-
broken coffee table. I need him to fly over to America to fix it. Kidding, but that's awesome.
Yeah, so with the right skills, anything's possible. If you can imagine it, I'm sure we can figure out a way to make it.
Yeah.
Now
that's
we
awesome.
talked about mat boards and the glass. Now the backing board, because I've had problems with that from a
Ooh.
cheap frame. Can you tell us
Yes.
like, what happens with that? Because that ruined a painting of mine.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
did it? Wait, first, before you go into it, what happened with yours?
It bled onto the like the MDF. Does it leach something?
it can,
Oh.
if you use MDF, an older style MDF, if it gets wet.
No, it was just a cheap frame that this artist had put this beautiful painting in. And I bought it like that, not sort of realizing, and it got brown around the edges. And when I took it to a professional framer, she said it leaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the problem with the wrong things touching and there being off-gassing, and
Right.
you know, every little bit gets into the frame. So even humidity, that is moisture into the backing board, and that will brown things.
Yeah.
There's also different grades. If you've got really high quality artwork, there are archival methods of framing as well.
Yeah, because you want to be acid free, because eventually it will start to eat away at browning and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah,
because like that's one of the things we do with when we're making artwork, right? You want it OBA free, right? If you're doing paperwork, which is optical brightening agent free, because most paper, that's why artists often use cotton, right? Is because cotton is naturally white, whereas paper is naturally off white, so it's usually bleached. But I guess the same is true for like wood and stuff. It's like got resins and chemical, like various like glues and that kind of stuff that can bugger up your artwork. And that would be, that's a massive shame.
Yeah, so there is a whole range of products that are specifically archival, acid free, from mat boards to backing boards. The way we hinge it, which hinging is how it's attached to the mat board.
Like an archival tape type thing? Or...
Yeah.
It's called a hinge. I never knew that. Learn something every day.
Hinging. So it's done just along the top edge.
Oh.
You never tape along the bottom edge.
Right.
So it's only along the top.
Because it will fall down anyway, and then it will
so you use the gravity to naturally hold it down. But with the backing boards, most commonly we use a 5mm foam board, and it is an acid-free foam board. If you've got a poster or something, we can put it on adhesive foam board. That's also good for photos. So the foam board itself has an adhesive side to it, and we run it through a really heavy duty roller, and it presses. So this is not archival onto the adhesive board, but it'll keep it, if there's wrinkles in it, it'll flatten them out. If you don't want a matte board, it will help keep it flat.
Because I think that's also a challenge. Like my friend's Dustin got a gigantic paper print, and the problem is obviously you lay it out to flatten, but that's part of the issue, is that it always sort of all the paper always comes in rolls. That's how it's printed, it's how it's shipped. Even if it comes to you flat, it's been on a roll, so the tendency for it to go back to that is quite, you know what I mean. And he's got all these like ocean waves in it, and he's like, it's rubbish, it's a beautiful print, just needs a bit more, needs sticking down really.
So if that was to go onto adhesive backing through the roller, it would be perfect.
There you go. You're getting the business. That's awesome.
So
I think also,
sorry, I was gonna say, if I came to you then and then wanted something framed, would I have to stipulate that I needed this to be archival quality? Because I'm thinking, when I go and get something framed, is that not that quality anyway?
We can usually tell from an artwork that's being brought in and who it's being brought in by, whether we need to address the archival. We always ask first before putting on adhesive board. We never ever put anything on adhesive board without letting the customer know that it is non-reversible. So it is not
I'm not talking
archival.
I'm not talking about the adhesive board. I'm just talking about general framing. Like, is it
Yeah.
all archival or not?
No, not 100%. Pretty much everything now is acid free, but there are different methods. Like there's extra steps to go fully archival, which is different quality mat boards. So you've got your standard everyday mat boards, and you can go right up to unarchival quality, which makes sure that it's got none of the acids and things in it.
And there's prices as well, you know, so I think
so it is a lot more pricey to do fully archival. But if you're protecting an artwork,
priceless.
Right. So yes, Chris, in that respect, if it's something that's very special or you're specifically wanting 100% archival, do say that at the start to your framer. Go in and say, I want this archival mounted, and then we can start from the top.
Nice. Yeah.
So
all I'm thinking is, like, I've got a drawing that I did when I was 3. It was on the fridge, but now archival.
Things like that are important too, aren't they?
They are.
I mean, we've done that for kids' drawings as well, because it's what matters to our clients. So, you know, we're not here to say what should be archival mounted and what shouldn't be, unless it really should be, and they're saying it should be.
right, because I mean, it is cost prohibitive for some people depending on what they've got available. But I'm now starting to think, like, there are artworks that I've purchased that are in frames that I probably do need to consider whether that frame was just you know, actually I bought some frames from the dollar store and Amy looked at me like this. Because they were crap.
What are you doing to me?
I was going to use them as a palette. That's my defense. But well, the glass is really good. I don't know if you've ever done that, if you need to use a portable palette.
I do use glass as a palette. I use our offcuts.
Oh, do you?
My palettes.
So cool.
I do. Yeah.
That's a good idea, a cheap frame.
Yeah, well, it's good because they're small enough to put in the freezer as well, if you're like me and sometimes leave a painting for several months before going back to it. This is super interesting. What do you see? Like, so do you ever get any people that have tried to do it themselves and they've worked out?
Or that it's, I mean, most commonly we get a lot of frames come in that, you know, if we're reframing and we'll open it up and look at it and go, oh my God,
there's a cockroach in it.
Like, why has anyone done that? I mean, I've been to our local art society and I've given them a class on framing, because a lot of them like to do their own framing. It is obviously a lot cheaper as well, but there are ways that you can make a Kmart frame be a lot better for your artwork than just putting it together willy-nilly. So there are methods to everything. Amy? How do you do that? Just with being really careful.
Some people just can't afford to get them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have customers as well that bring in their own frames and just want a mat board cut to fit that frame, to put their artwork in. And we totally understand that. You know, we can't be, you know, you must buy our frames or we're not going to help you. You know, we do understand that it is an expense that not everyone can afford. Obviously a custom frame looks far and beyond, like $1 million bucks better than a Kmart frame. But at the end of the day, if that's all you've got to work with, then
do what you can with what you've got.
It's better than nothing. But so the things that you can do, if you're doing it at home with a Kmart frame,
Or a target frame if you're in, or a wheel post frame if you're in the UK.
I'm taking the money away from myself. But anyway, so something that we like to do is, it's the French term for it is a passe-partout, and I love this word.
Passe-partout, it sounds like a pastry.
If you've watched Around the World in 80 Days with David Tennant, you'll get this. Passe-partout. Anyway, so that is sealing the package. It's a package. So you've got your backing, and then you've got your image, and then you've got your glass. And then your map board will be in there as well.
Right.
And you'll actually seal that package. We use the magic tape, which is the 3M invisible magic tape.
Right.
You put that from the glass, so that hides. So yeah, so you'll start from the glass side and just a tiny bit on the edge, so it's covered by that edge, that lip of the frame, which is called the rebate. So it'll hide under there. Yeah. So you run that tape along.
Oh, wait, hold on. The bit that on the frame that hangs over is called a rebate.
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 A rebate. Oh, okay. So your frame molding is like this, and then your glass will sit under here. So this little lip here is called the rebate.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. We got new words today.
So you use your tape and you run it along the edge of your glass, and then you'll fold it underneath, and you do that around all four sides. And then you've got a sealed package. So when you're putting it together, clean your glass really well.
Yeah.
Wipe all your dust out. Make sure there's no dust in it. And then seal it with that tape. You're making sure that there's no dust getting into it in the future. The insects can't get in. It's a bit more humidity controlled as well, so that you can then just take that package without the frame and you can move it around, and it's not going to get more dust in it.
Nice.
And it's not going to get things underneath it. So when you've got a frame on the wall, even when it's stuck together, it will naturally create a slight bellows if it's not stuck together. So any expansion, contraction, any kind of movement, if you're walking down the hallway and you've got floorboards and your pictures are banging against the wall, that's all creating a little vacuum bellows, and it's sucking dust and insects and everything into your frame. So if you do that sealing around your frame, it's going to keep it nicer for a lot longer.
Yeah, nice.
So magic tape you can get from any Office Works. So it's
awesome.
It's the 3M Scotch invisible tape. It removes easily as well. And when you're hinging your work, which is attaching it to that map board, just make sure to only do it on the top.
Right. Wow.
So you want the gravity to let the rest of the picture hang, because again, with your expansion and contraction, if you're taping the whole picture down, it's going to end up warping over time. So you just want to let it hang and do its thing.
Hang loose, man.
Yeah. And then once you're done and you've put it all together, when you've folded those flex points down at the back, so they're the little wire, the little metal bits that hold back on.
Yeah.
Run some paper tape, some craft tape.
Yeah.
Even masking tape will do, but masking tape tends to get brittle after a couple of years. And
masking tape's really designed to be pulled off.
Yeah. So you can get brown craft tape.
Yeah.
The paper tape. Run that around the back edges, so that's actually sealed in as well, and that'll stop anything else from getting in.
Nice. And honestly, I think that craft brown tape, and especially if you can get it archival, if you're doing it, but because I use it on my canvases on the back to cover up some of the staples to make it look a little nicer.
Yeah, we do that too. Yeah, it's a really nice, neat finish. And if you do that on the back of your frames, then it's going to keep that seal nice as well.
But do cut it with scissors, and don't rip it with your teeth, because it looks awful.
No, don't rip it with your teeth. Craft knife is preferred.
I've never done that. Only once or twice when I couldn't find the scissors. Anyway, it doesn't work, so don't do it. There you go. Learn from my mistakes.
Use a craft knife, please.
Yeah. Ah, yeah. That's really
I
fascinating.
wanted to ask you about when you get your prints and you get the prints from the printer and they're rolled in a tube.
Yep.
How would you advise people to deal with them when they get them?
If they are a very good quality print, so if they're a cotton rag print, if you really want to open it at home, please wear gloves.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah, any oils from your fingers, even if you've just washed your hands, there's still natural oils on your fingertips. So we keep cotton gloves on our consult table.
Oh, do you?
So if people come in with a print in a tube, we will put those gloves on to roll it out, and we use the gloves while
fancy.
very fancy.
It does make you more fancy. But yeah, like I'd be like, I wash my hands, put moisturizing lotion back on. Don't touch it.
Yeah. So any oils will stay in the paper and it won't be visible for the first year or even 2 years, but eventually it will start to wear down.
Really?
Basically, it
and
will.
Even worse if it's like a shiny surface as well. Like
you'll get the fingerprints on it, and it'll mat them out. And if you try and wipe it off, CSI. It's going to scuff it. And we've had some black matte prints come in that people haven't been able to wait to have a look at it, and they've got scratches in the paper. Those really dark. Kat, you'd know this, those really dark black matte prints on the black paper. Wow. You touch it with anything and it'll scratch. So
you just look at it wrong.
Really important for us to let our customers know. It's really important, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. As an artist, yes, if you're producing those kind of prints, send something with your print to say this is how it should be handled, please don't handle this without your framer, or if you must
send an email.
Be super careful with it, because the more careful you are with it, obviously the better condition it's going to be in. So we've had to frame things that have scratches on it, and we've had to say, you look at it and you say, look, this has got a scratch in it, and they say, oh yeah, I opened it and I couldn't help it. And I'm like, well, we can't fix it. So
even like a tiny little crease or a divot can make a massive impact on the way that it looks, because then it just draws your eye to it. It's unless it's like a busy artwork, in which case it can kind of get lost in it, but paper prints especially, right? Canvas I find is a little bit more forgiving for me, because there's ways of resetting the fibers, but with paper, I actually have started to encourage some of my clients to just ship it directly to the local framer. And just I'm like, don't even put your own address in, put the framers in there, and then that way
that's great, because then it removes any temptation to open it beforehand.
But also I think sometimes people do get stuff delivered, and this is my other big challenge, is the postal service and how much they've booted the item around the world. I did have one thing turn up with tire tracks on. Now there's definitely no fixing that one.
No.
I thought, well, that's an interesting way.
No, that's a return to sender.
But that is also another thing, is that sometimes you just have to look out for damage like postage boxes, and usually it's dead obvious because there's a chunk missing or it's dented. But
I'm curious how you, when you get them as well, how you flatten them, because they roll them up, and these papers, like the cotton rag papers, they're quite stiff.
They are, yes.
Pull them out, they're really still coiled, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. So we had one very tricky case of one that wanted to be float mounted. So float mounting is when there's no mat board over the top, and it's actually sitting on top of the base mat board. So so it looks like it's floating in the box.
And this was
and it was a very curled paper, and we actually had to redo it a couple of times, because even though we made it flat, it by the nature of paper, wanted to spring back up. But so we either let it press for as long as we can. So we'll put it between 2 layers of foam board and weigh it down to let it flatten out. Or we've got a snazzy little device which you can reverse roll a print. So it's I can't remember the name of it right now. I apologize, but it's made properly for this purpose. So it's just basically a layer of like just a sheet of plastic with a roll, and you can put the print in it and roll it back in the other direction.
Nice. Yeah, and it's nice, smooth and consistent. When I have prints, so I sometimes sell prints that have quite thick printing on it because it's being screened. With those, I tend to encourage people to just allow the roll to naturally expand a little bit first in case they crack the print, because it was, and that was a challenge because I had to coordinate 200 people not cracking a print.
And the danger with that as well is if you take it out of the roll before you take it to the printers and it's done that expansion, you want to get it back into the tube to take it to your printers. That's where things get really tricky, and that's where things can get damaged trying to write enough to get back into those tubes. So if you can just leave it until you get 2 frames, because once we take it out, we'll press it straight away. We won't try and jam it back into the tube.
Don't do that. But like with very thick prints, if you are to frame them yourself and you're not taking them anywhere else, with those particular like screen printed things, to just allow the roll to slowly open itself and very slowly allow it to sometimes it's a process of 2 weeks, and that's just and use your gloves and work it gently to flatten out, and then let it press for as long as you can. Put a complete full-size flat surface over the top of it, something nice and clean. Usually they come with tissue paper rolled around it anyway, so leave the tissue paper on the top and put a full size thing on top of it, and then weigh that on top. So don't put your odd books and bits and pieces on your print. Use a single flat surface and then pile the books on. Because you don't need extra room, and don't press it with any bugs in there.
No.
Nothing like that.
It's great. I feel like I've learned lots, and it basically it's like be very, very careful and take them to the printers.
Be very careful. There's a whole other process when you bring in doing pastels and that sort of thing. So that's a whole other conversation.
Pray tell, I'm ready.
So with a pastel, preferably it should be fixed. Artists, please fix your pastels. But even if it is fixed, the best thing to do is to create a channel. So that is picture. Hang on, let me get my angles straight. So we have the picture, and then instead of just having the mat board straight against the picture, we'll actually set the mat board off the picture.
Oh, okay.
So there's a little channel inside. So when the dust comes off the picture, it will drop into that little channel. Instead of coming over onto the mat board and dirtying the mat board.
Because it continually falls off, doesn't it?
So
I've never done pastels.
Ideally, if it's fixed, it doesn't drop too much dust, but it'll always still drop a little bit. So with that channel, it will keep the frame nice and clean.
It's funny because like I have an easel that tilts forward, and I'm assuming it's for that reason. But I was always wondering why anyone would like to paint like this. And it must be for the pastels, right? To stop it from falling on them. Oh, fascinating. I'm messy enough without pastels. I'm bloody glad.
Pastels are a whole nother ball game.
Board game. Sorry.
Board game.
That's fascinating. And what about canvases, when people bring canvases in to be restretched?
So canvases, you can do either single weight or the double thick is called a gallery weight. So that's your nice thick depth. If you're getting something stretched, please allow enough room on the edges of your canvas to fold over that edge, and then behind it with enough purchase to pull on it to staple, because it has to be pulled really tight to staple. We get a lot of canvases in to do that have been stretched before and have been taken off to roll to ship. They're great, but I mean, especially things from that we get people who've bought paintings from, say, Vietnam or Cambodia, where it's on a very thin, almost like a sheet. And it's the paint has ended up being buckled from being rolled and that sort of thing. So if you're getting anything from overseas, treat it with absolute delicacy when you're packing it in your suitcase. Please roll it as best as you can, because we've seen a lot of cracked paint and all of that sort of thing. And that's something we really can't do anything with. Like, we can stretch it the best we can stretch it, but there's some things that just can't be reversed. So we really need a
Peru, and it
we need
a tube, like a drain pipe.
Yes,
they're really good because they can't bend.
The plastic ones.
So to do a gallery stretch, which is the thicker canvas, ideally, so the stretcher bar itself is 1.5 inches deep. So to go around the edge, you need that 1.5 inches, and then we need to go behind it as well. So it needs a lot of extra to go over it. So just keep that in mind. Especially if you've ordered a canvas where the image goes right to the edge, and then you bring it in wanting to be stretched, you're going to lose a lot of that image to wrap it around. If you want something like that framed, it's better to do that behind matte board and glass if you don't want to lose too much image, because we can frame an image behind matte board with 2 or 3 mil loss.
That's right. Or you get like a floating frame and have it, whatever the other one is, or it's just a front. But that just makes me think also, like, if you're signing your artwork with the intention of it being restretched with the artwork wrapped around it, make sure you're not signing right in the very corner. You're leaving
absolutely,
because I've done that, and it looks bloody weird because like the signature's like looks like I've got right on the very edge, like a little kid.
But even if you're doing works on paper as well, people are wanting to frame these. We've had artworks come in that they've been signed right on the very bottom edge, and you lose the signature. Like, we need a couple of mils at the bottom to overlap, otherwise it flips through the matte board. So
that's true.
That's always sign a bit higher up.
Actually, if you're doing artworks on paper, always leave, for me, I'm always trying to leave a minimum, if it's a small piece, 1/2 inch edge or a whole inch. I don't know what that is in mils anymore. I'm Americanized, but you know what I mean? A bit of space, and especially if you're going to write on it and put like a edition number that you want to be semi-visible, right? Readable. You can't be having it. And I think also it can help you position it a little bit nicer as well. Absolutely.
Now, on that, where they have, like people, if they do limited edition prints, then they'll write on the bottom, this is, beach scene 3, and sign it. Do you, leave a white border there so you can actually see that?
We do.
Does the white border go all the way around, or is it just like the bottom bit?
So what we'll do is say leave a 20 mil at the bottom, so that can be seen, but then around the sides of the top only do a 5 mil. So it evens out really well, but you've still got that a little white border around the image on the top and sides as well, because you don't want it butting up against the image and then just having this white thing at the bottom. So it leaves it nice, even. It looks really nice. So if you leave the 20 mil all around, it also looks funny. But if you have that bias at the bottom, so a bias is anything heavier weighted at the bottom. You can
I'd
do that
always-
with mat board as well. That's a very traditional thing, to have a heavier bias at the bottom of
Yeah.
the frame.
You can get away with it even all the way around, as long as the writing is so faint that when you stand back, you can't see it. But when
Yes.
you so bright, which in my opinion, that's kind of how you're meant to be signing it anyway. But if you're going to be doing it in heavy so that it is visible at a distance, then yeah, having that extra bit of room at the bottom makes it look so much nicer, because visually your eye isn't saying, oh, the artwork's finishing here, it's finishing here where the at the bottom of the signatures are. So it looks, that's why it looks wonky.
And again, with the visually weighting with that bias is the idea behind that is that when your eyes look at an artwork that's hanging up, it will actually look even though it's got more at the bottom. It will still look even because of the way a frame will tip forward when it's on the wall.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've never considered
So
that.
even if it's 10 mil more at the bottom, so if you have a 50 mil border, top and sides, and then 60 mil at the bottom, visually, when it's weighted and the frame is slightly tipping forward on the wall, your eye will perceive it as looking even all the way around.
That is amazing. Unless you're a really, really tall person, you knock your head on the headlamps. The headlamps, you know what I mean. Yeah, but that's fascinating. I'd never even thought about that. I feel like I've learned stuff.
There's so many little nuances in framing that is fascinating.
That's awesome. So I know we're talking about framing, but I would love to talk about you as an artist for a minute, if that's all right.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it brings great context to it, right? Because I think you have to have a bit of appreciation for art to do this business. So where did you start? Because I know what you like to create. But
I started way back, but I'm an absolute lover of the environment and nature, and I studied natural history illustration at the University of Newcastle, and I love birds. Bird nerd.
Birds.
There's nothing wrong with that. You're looking like there's something wrong with it. I love budgies. I do budgies. Birds.
There's just something very whimsical and colourful about birds, and it's
in Australia, but I must say in England, birds are all grey and boring.
Okay, so our Australian birds are cool.
They are cool.
I mean, any nature is amazing to paint. It's all just stunning. So that's sort of where my artwork is going now, into the nature, and I've always had an interest in education through art. So like a conservation education type of track. So
I love that. And also, so moving on, because you said earlier that you're getting art supplies into your business. Now, give me the behind. Is it amazing that you could just buy loads of art supplies for your Is it like the best thing ever?
So as an artist, setting up an art supplies store was, if I didn't have any self-control, oh my gosh, I needed it then. I wanted to buy all of the things. So it was really something else, setting up an art supply store from scratch, and figuring out what to stock, and how to stock it, and then setting up full inventories, to web shop and online shop, and that's the same thing. In-person shop.
It's the e-commerce bit. It's a lot to it. There is a lot to it. But also, how amazing!
It's incredible.
One of these things.
And it's changing my artwork as well, because I'm learning so many more art supplies, and I'm like, hey, I could use that for.
Oh man,
very dangerous.
I'd be trouble.
Oh yes.
I'd be trouble. They say never dabble in the thing that you're selling too much. They'd be like, where is all our inventory? And I'd be like,
that's right,
Yes, my My
Don't look over there.
yes, my shop staff are also artists, and they do the same thing. They're like,
no.
can we get oh
You put a lot of inventory down to training.
yes.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I just think
Yeah.
that's so awesome. And also you have an art gallery as well as part of your.
We do.
Oh, you do
We've set up
everything,
a little
Amy.
space. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We've set up a little space in the back of the shop for local artists.
I know what you make it sound like it's a tiny weeny little shop, but it's like expansive and it's beautiful. I might add, and they have a shop dog, but that's another something for later.
All creepy, the shop dog.
Aw.
But yes, we have a gallery. I mean, when I say small, it takes about 20 pieces. So we change over every month, and we're doing this to support the local artists. So we don't charge a hanging fee. We've just got this space set up that a lot of artists has been their first solo show.
So I remember
it's
my
really
first
nice
solo show was only 20 pieces. So I mean that's decent. Really.
That's
Yeah.
enough, yeah, for one person.
Yeah, God,
I mean, I
imagine
don't
doing-
have 20 pieces to show, so I think it's great that
It's a
people
lot,
have that to
yeah.
show. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
fabulous.
And we do group shows as well with the local artists collectives and that sort of thing. They all get together and put in a couple of pieces each, but it's really fun to showcase the local artists and give them that support. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we sell quite a few pieces every month, which is lovely. So it gives them that support as well.
And encouragement that they can, make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we get to the point where we talk about our top 3 things. So, Amy, what are your top 3 things for framing?
So first, I would say have an idea of where you want it, where it's going in your house. This is really important because that will get your colors, which also goes into our second most important thing of your glass. So that tells us how much light there is. So we go with your glass type if it's going to be protected. And which then again leads into our third most important thing is the kind of mounting. So if you want archival mounting, whether it's going to be reversible, whether it's going to last for years and years and years and years and years. So those 3 things together, your colors, knowing where it's going to go, what glass and what kind of mounting, you're going to walk out with a beautiful piece that will last you for decades.
A beauty.
Lovely. Lovely.
So for my top 3 things, I would say, firstly, don't let the glass touch. It's just so sad when you ruin an artwork when it sweats onto the bloody glass and don't think it's not going to happen, because it always does. And
Absolutely.
it's so sad. Oh, I'm still sad about my picture of Dave. Number 2, I would say, is wash your bloody hands and wear some bloody gloves. Preferably wash the gloves as well. Like dirty gloves are just as bad as dirty hands. But they're cheap, it's only like $1 or $2 if you go down to the hardware store and pick some cotton. They usually call that inspection gloves, or I don't know, you probably get some from.
Yeah, it's the one the real estate brings to wipe their finger over the top of it.
Yes, what you can do is you can handle your artwork, and then you can go around all your friends' house and that's accusatory. And I think 3 is also just don't be intimidated. I know that sounds silly, but I think some artists don't appreciate their artwork enough, and they don't think, oh, my artwork's good enough to frame, or I shouldn't really put. But I tell you what, every artwork looks so amazing, even if you're like, oh, I've got a long way to go. Don't we all? We've all got a long way to go.
That's a great point.
Don't ever be intimidated. Go and get your stuff framed. And the funny thing is the first time you go in there, you might feel like you don't know a lot, and that's okay, because once you chat to someone, your knowledge grows, and everything looks better with a frame. Oh, and if I can have a sneaky fourth, that little tip about taping around, if you've got to be bougie on a budget, that's a great place to start.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'll just add a couple as well. Mine, it's similar to that, but just don't touch them. That's a huge takeaway that I come from this. Don't touch them, because you're saying that even though that you can't see that we've touched them, later on down the track you might be able to see that. So
yes,
God, don't touch them. Yeah, and the cheapies, you know, great advice on if you can't frame now with a framer. You've given some great advice on doing cheapies, so you
Yeah.
can still do them beautifully and preserve, but you know, you've got to adapt these frames
Yeah.
that actually suit
And
that.
yeah, and just make sure you're looking for acid-free tape
Yeah.
when you're hinging, because don't use just plain old sellotape to hinge
Oh,
them.
God.
Because
Yeah.
No.
it'll make things go yellow. And
Yeah.
Oh, sheesh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And find a
That's
friendly
super-
printer, because I think it's great that you can go in and enjoy the process, because it's exciting, isn't it, to get you
It is.
It
fun.
is.
work frame.
is.
You know, when you pick it up, as you say, it makes such a massive difference. So to have
Huge.
somebody to help you through that process is just as excited as you know, make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's like the icing on the cake. It's just a
Yeah.
little dazzle on it. I love it.
Everyone loves a bit of razzle dazzle.
Razzle dazzle. Add a bit razzle dazzle to your artwork. Awesome. Well, I think that's us for this week. As always, if you guys have any questions, please add them in the comments below. And as always, all our social media links are down below. So make sure you follow so you don't miss future episodes. Until next week, we are going to be talking about giving you masses. I've got masses in capitals of content ideas. So until then, keep creating and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Amy. See you.
Thank you for having me.